Hey, what's up, blue collar business owner? Welcome back to the Blue Collar Prosperity Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Maska, where we focus on helping guide you to have a prosperous blue collar business. Today, I am super excited. We have with us Dave Moerman. Dave is the founder at Home Service Business Coach, which has impacted hundreds of home service entrepreneurs around the world. He is also the owner at Revive Services, which is his home service business that runs with a management team. Outside of business, Dave enjoys spending time with his wife, Alex, son, Beckham, and going on walks with his golden retriever, Charlie. So that is Dave Moerman. Welcome, Dave. Thank you so much for being here. What is going on in Canada today?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. That's a great, well-written intro. And life is good here in Canada. I'm actually on the West Coast, just outside Vancouver. So we're in a little bit of a heat wave for Americans listening. We're north of 100 degrees right now, which for Canada, it's like hot for us.
That is super hot. So we're recording this in July. I'm in North Carolina, where it's usually obviously way hotter than Canada, but it's only 92 today. So
Yeah.
it's cool in North Carolina. I'm really excited about this interview. For those guys that don't know backstory, I used to have a podcast back in like 2018, 2017, 2019, 2020. And I connected with Dave when he had just started coaching at Home Service Business Coach, the business that he runs now. So this is kind of coming full circle 4 years later. So for those of the listeners out there that don't know you, Dave, kind of give everybody an insight into your journey. You went from, obviously starting your own home service business to now where you're at today. That's running kind of on autopilot, and you're impacting hundreds of home service entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah, man. It all started like I've been signing my own paycheck for 16 years now. So I went to business school on a soccer scholarship. I'm like Dutch and 6'3". So I was a center back and recruited on a scholarship to basically tackle guys and head the ball. So I did that. My first year, though, I ended up getting 2 concussions, which sidelined me. And the doctor said, Dave, you can't play soccer anymore. So I have a bit of an obsessive personality. So I ended up bumping into a campus recruiter at my college, and it was in the time 2009. I got a CD-ROM. It said, hey, Dave, you can make $20,000 in a summer painting houses. Very good hook. Had me really bought in. So I ended up signing up, Paul, to do that internship. I signed up for 1 year initial commitment, but I ran my painting business for 4 years. So I'd study business, and then we'd go out and paint, 100 homes in the summer with my buddies. So that 4 year period, Paul, really gave me my taste for entrepreneurship, learned door knocking, learned everything about like how a small home service business runs. And then, my sister kind of started making fun of me. She said, you're like Peter Pan. When are you going to grow up and get a real job? And I'm 35 today and still just running businesses and signing my own paychecks. So that's where it all started.
That's super cool. And it's funny you mentioned that, because a lot of times people in my family are like, I don't really know what Paul does, but he doesn't have a job. So it's nice when you sign your own paycheck, when you can make those decisions on, where you actually want to take life and business and all the good things that come with it. So one of my favorite things about you, Dave, is you're a coach, but you've actually done it and you're still doing it. There are way too many coaches out there that have never owned a business, never
Yeah.
operated a business, never hired anybody, never scaled anything, never had to look at numbers, never had to do any of that. And you've done it all. You've been through the grind. The
Mhm.
first step for everybody is like, okay, I quit my job or never had a job, and I'm on the truck and I'm painting houses, or I'm cutting grass, or I'm doing the electrical work, or I'm washing houses. And that's fun for a little while until we realize like there's a good demand for it because I'm good at this. But now I need to scale this. The only way to scale this is to get off the truck. You're
Yeah.
really good at helping people do that. What are some of the things that our listeners can do if they're still stuck on the truck? What can they do to start moving that ball forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to this. Like, I think the biggest thing, it all starts with beginning with the end in mind and actually figuring out like what kind of a business do you want to have. So to give a bit of context, like, I was able to my record year for student painting, we did $315,000 in a summer of painting, and I made 100 grand when I was 23. So that was like the light bulb of like, okay, this thing works, and I was able to do that with 10 painters and not be on the tools. So that's really my skill set, Paul, is like in sales and marketing and hiring. It's not in actually painting. I actually have a buddy of mine who's a handyman who comes over and hangs the pictures on our house because I just don't want to put holes in the wall because I'm not handy. So for me, like it came really natural to just be off the tools. That's kind of like the only way. I just haven't really known another way. But I think a lot of listeners listening in could be the opposite, and they actually end up quitting a trades business as they want to go out on their own and make more money. So to go to my first point, beginning with the end in mind, when I started my cleaning business in 2016, it was all about two things: getting more time freedom and creating above average income for my family, for my future family at the time. So it really started with, okay, fulfillment is a huge thing in service businesses. I'm going to need to staff up that department in my business. And I was on the tools. We did 89,000 in the first year. I was the guy doing the windows and gutters for the first couple months, figuring out that business. I was on the Shack Shine website, Men in Kilts website. I'm getting quotes. I'm really learning the business. So I was swallowing my pride to go out to site, but I knew after a month or two, I'm going to put a technician in there that I can go out and then market the business. I think that's the first thing we need to focus on is like 3, 5, 7, 10 years from now, is the owner in the truck. And I think a lot of owners just haven't even thought about what 3 years down the line even looks like.
Yeah, and it's so true because I think like our first goal is to just get money in the door. Like, okay, now we've got proof of concept, and now it kind of just goes into, well, I guess this is what it is to run your own business. You're just out in the truck every day because we don't have that vision. Once we have the vision, we can work backwards and go, that's where I want to be. That's where I'm at today. Now, what step do I have to take to get a little bit closer there? So when it goes to getting off the truck, I think, one of the biggest mindset hurdles is Joe's not going to be able to do it as good as I can, or so and so isn't going to show up, or they're going to say the wrong thing to the customer. We're really concerned about the client experience, the delivery. What are they going to do? What are they not going to do? What's going to go wrong? What do you
Yeah.
tell your clients that have that kind of mentality of they're
Yeah.
afraid?
Like such a good question, Paul. For me, um, that may be a worry. Yeah, that Tim's not going to do the job as good as you. My worry about 1,000 times more than that, Paul, is what happens if the business doesn't run without Dave? That's what I sweat bullets at night. If I'm having an active role, I've failed as an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs design the business, they build the game out. They're not the one actually operating it. So that's like it's a key. Like mindset is so overblown, I think, in entrepreneurship, and you don't really understand it until you see it. But for me, it was really reading the book, The E-Myth, that turned my mind on to saying, this machine needs to get built without the owner. And a really quick gut check, Paul, for those of us collecting Google reviews. If you read the most 10 Google reviews for your company, for your trades business, how many mention your name, the owner? If right now 8 of them do, cool. Let's have a goal in the next 6 months that maybe 5 or 6 of them do, because business is a team sport. And ultimately, you don't want to just create $150,000 job for yourself, because business has so much stress. Like if you can't learn how to staff up and hire people, you would be better going to work for someone else's business. And it's easy to hear that on a podcast and think I'm just making it up, but most business owners fail because it's so hard, because they don't begin with the end in mind and they end up trapped inside their own trades business. And then you create clients. They're loyal to you, to Tim, the business owner. They're not loyal to the brand. And that's a big problem.
Yeah, and I love the kind of gut check of the Google review because a lot of times that feeds their ego, right? They're all mentioning Paul, like, oh, that's
Yeah.
so cool. I'm a superhero. But for me, as a former business owner of the trades as well, like it is so gratifying when you start reading all those reviews and none of them mention your name and they all mention your technician's name. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can sleep well
Yeah.
at night because we've got really good people out there doing really good things and they
Yeah.
don't even know I exist. So that's
Yeah.
that's a really good kind of, gut check measurement of how many Google reviews are mentioning your name when they mention people. So last question on getting off the truck. Obviously, we got to train these people
Mhm.
because we want them to do it the way we want it to be done. I think a lot of business owners get stuck as they try and hire somebody with a whole bunch of experience, throw them out there, and then they get frustrated really quickly because they're not doing it the way that we want it done, or they're just taking it and running with it. They're not trainable. What are some of the best things that you've seen work when it comes to training new hires, especially technicians out in the field?
Yeah, so a key distinction here, man, like my specialty is really in like, I don't know the best word, like the unticketed trades, I guess. Like I purposely chose a cleaning business because there is not a lot of regulation around, hiring employees, that you don't need a 4-year gas fitter license or some kind of unique ticket. I chose that business. It's recurring. It's very fragmented industry and it's very high profit margins. So, obviously take with a grain of salt. If you've got plumbing, electrical type of businesses, those are going to be different when it comes to actually trained employees. But in my case, man, in both instances, for us, it comes down to really finding fits for core values. And this is something, Paul, I heard on podcasts for 10 years. I'm like, I don't need core values. Like what, this is some kind of woo woo, like hot fairy dust that I neglected it, man, until 2019. I had a 10-person business and I actually sat down and wrote out what are the 5 values that everyone we hire at Revive needs to exhibit. And I wrote them down. I took them to our team. We changed a couple around and then we printed it, laminated. It's in our office today, hanging up. So it's kind of this adage of like hiring for attitude, training for skill. Again, easier to do in painting, landscaping, cleaning businesses, but people's core values, you can't coach up. They're just inherently wired in them. So Paul, we had our podcast today for my time, 1 p.m. I'm there at 1 p.m. It's not 1:03 or 1:13. I'm there. Like that shows that I'm a committed person, that I follow through. I was in our office today, Paul. I had an interview at 10:30. The guy texted me at 10:39. Hey, I was running late. I'm good now. I texted him, with all due respect, the interview was for 10:30. We're going to move on. Wish you the best. I'm not even getting on that interview. He's 9 minutes late. I'll give people the benefit of the doubt after I've known them for a year or 2 or 3. But in your first year of knowing someone, I just got no time for the switcheroos. So that's one example of a core value. I can't coach someone up. I could coach you, Paul, to get really good at window cleaning in a week, but I can't coach you to keep your word and show up on time. That's just inherently baked when you were a child in your upbringing.
It's so true. And the core values make it so easy to make decisions as a team when they know, like, why did Dave make that decision? You go through the core values. That's the filter. One of your core values is related to keeping your word or being on time, whatever it is. It's like, all right, well, it's 10:39. He knew he was going to be late probably by 10 o'clock. If you'd have called and said like, hey man, something happened, maybe he's got a shot. But if you're 9 minutes late to tell you that you're going to be late, adios. So, all right, that's awesome. We've perfected this. We got people out in the field. Now we're in the office. So we're kind of going through this scaling process because that's what Dave does. And I love this conversation because it can help so many people out there. Now we're in the office and we're doing a lot of different things in the office. We're answering phones, we're sending invoices, scheduling technicians, doing all the things. How do we start the process of, because I would say most listeners, they're technicians by trade. They started their business because they like power washing or they like cutting grass, or like doing electrical work. Now they're in the office. They're kind of like a fish out of water, but they're still control freaks. How do we start the process of getting out of the office so now the business can truly, truly run without the owner on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, this one's near to my heart, man, because how owners struggle to get out of the field. If you're a highly like administrative type of entrepreneur, as I am, I stayed in the office one season too long. So in our growth for our company, we moved from 89,000 to 155,000 in revenue, which is not bad. But that was the extra year I sat in the office and I was the office manager because we run on Jobber. And I was saying, I have got my schedule perfectly color coded and I'm like a organized control freak. So that's what held me back. Where our 3rd year, I fired myself from the office and I was able to actually market and sell the business. And we grew from 155 to 582 in 1 year. So I think there's different plateaus where you'll kind of hit these checkpoints in your business. And I think the office is a key one. So for any listener of any size, I usually coach our members that you want to be investing about 5% of your top line revenue to go into that office position. Now, in recording today, 2024, there's a number of options now, Paul, with virtual assistants in Southern America, in the Philippines, and we've got members doing that. I personally subscribe to hiring someone local. and having them really know the area. But depending on your market, I would say anywhere from $17 to $30 an hour throughout the US. You could find someone absolutely awesome who would love this position to interact with your clients, handle the schedule, do your outbound calls. And I would be starting this even, Paul, if it was 3 hours a day. 15 hours a week would be an incredible. I see the book behind you, Dan's book, Buy Back Your Time. That's where owners really need to focus. And if people only heard 30 seconds of this podcast, Paul, 80% of their time's getting sucked up in the field and in the office. So if we can solve for X, solve for that in the next year so they can live in sales and production, their business will see just incredible growth. But you get stuck in bear trap 1 in the field or bear trap 2 in the office. So it's a very common place that owners will stay. And also a lot of entrepreneurs are not very administrative, so they should be easy to hire for. But we just neglect it and we end up resenting doing the invoicing and a lot of the stuff, which tends to fall in the evenings when it should be, family or personal time.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's funny you say you stay in the office, one season too long. I still like electrical company that I just recently exited. One of the things that I realized I had to do was move my physical office further away from the people answering the phone because it's like the natural instinct of I'm going to go jump in. I'm going to go tell them to this. I'm going to go do this. And then it takes away from my focus of, like you said, sales, marketing, scaling, vision, all that. And if anybody follows the Buy Back Your Time, if you haven't read the book, highly recommend it. Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. But he kind of walks you through exactly how to do it. Get rid of the admin work, get rid of the production work, then eventually get rid of marketing work, and then you get rid of sales work. And you slowly work your way up into your organization where you are the visionary, you are the one driving it forward, and you have the ability to do that. So that's some really great advice. And I like the measurable, being a numbers and finance person, of having a set amount. 5% goes into the office. So even if you're only doing $500,000 a year, let's put 5% of that, 25 grand, into getting stuff off of our plate. And like you said, maybe it starts out at 3 hours, then it goes 4 hours, then it goes 5. And by the time you're $1 million business, you've probably offloaded 90 some percent of the stuff that you're wasting time on when somebody else could do it. So obviously doing all of this, we've got to find great people to do this so we can confidently go spend time with the family, travel, start other businesses, invest in real estate, do all these other things. You gave a little bit of insight into it, focusing on your core values and sticking to it, but you've probably made a ton of mistakes. You've hired hundreds of people in the last decade. What are some of the things that you have found work and don't work when it comes to recruiting great people to run your business?
Yeah, man, good question. Man, I wish we had like a whole another hour for this one. But at the end of the day, I think number one comes down to the owner. I think since 2014, Paul, last 10 years, I've been reading and learning like every single year. Like a lot of my time is spent in just sharpening how I think and how I view the business. I think it all starts with the leader for sure. Getting better and investing in themselves. So I think John Maxwell talks about this a lot, like your leadership level, you're only going to attract people if you keep forging ahead and growing yourself. So I think first off, what we see in Facebook groups is disgruntled trades business owners ranting that there's no one good out there. And a quick scan through their social media profile, I'm like, yeah, I probably wouldn't want to like work for this dude either. So I think one other thing, man, needs to get mentioned in trades is solving for seasonality. This is something I've been talking a lot about. The quality of my hires I made since 2019. Not only am I more experienced in hiring, but we added in Christmas lights to our business where now we can bring technicians on. They can make, $55,000 a year full-time working with us, and we keep them on year round. That's a different offering than it would be to hiring, someone to make 20 grand in half a year working for a window cleaning business that the owner, pieces out to Thailand for 4 months of the year. And I've been that business owner, and you just attract a different type of person. So I think solving for seasonality, especially in those more fragmented industries like landscaping, window cleaning, painting that I'm more well-versed in. A third one, just to give for context, would be I would say all around, what kind of employer are you actually going to be? And this is something I was talking to my service manager about today in our office, that I think what we do really well at our business is figure out what our employees, our technicians are looking for, and then work with them to really build a plan to achieve that. So we want to know how much money they want to be making in 2 years. We want to know some of their personal goals. We want to work with them for having flexible schedules. Our office manager is taking off to Europe for 3 weeks in a month from now. So like we're able to make that happen. Because I want to be the type of employer that people are like, I work for this company and it's awesome. And we see that, man. Our technicians has stayed with us for 4, 5, 6 years. My top guys, like cleaning gutters. So I really think you got to figure out how to flip the switch, not make it about cleaning out dirty gutters, but make it about how are you an attractive person to work for? How is this an opportunity? And how can you, the employer, support my goals as an employee? And it's like that Gary V quote, man, like the best business strategy is just caring. And I think most business owners actually don't care about their people. I really believe that. And they're just trying to manage the labor on their P&L. So I think if you can kind of run the other way, the best thing you can do in a trades business is figure out how to get it making money and hire like the best people you can get.
Yeah, and it's funny you talk about that because when you do care and you do figure out what their goals are, their values are, what does success look like for them, all the things you talked about, your labor rate will go down. Like you'll be a more profitable business. You're gonna have less turnover. You're gonna have happy customers. You're gonna have higher tickets. You're gonna have a better
Mhm.
culture, and then you're gonna attract all of the people in their circle. Like they're gonna be
Mhm.
like, I want to go work where Joe's working because that sounds like a fun place. And it's funny,
Mhm.
like I was interviewing Brandon Vaughn a little while ago, and he's big, obviously, in the power washing, pressure washing, house cleaning
Yeah.
business. He's like, I just we make our ads super fun too. So instead of looking for a pressure wash guy, we're looking for a professional gas powered squirt gun operator, and like
Yes.
that's what they do. Like so,
Yeah.
your ad kind of feeds into what type of people are you looking for, and
Yeah.
solving for seasonality is such a huge thing. When I was a partner in the landscaping business, that was a big problem, especially
Yeah.
depending on where you're at in the country. If you're up north and it doesn't snow, like there's no snow removal to do. And it's like, what do our guys
Yeah.
do? They're gone. Now we got to reload come spring. We don't know when spring's going to start. We don't know when snow's
Yeah.
getting off the ground. And you just get those type of people that are really like, hey, how much money can I make in the next 6 months? And then,
Yeah.
there really is no career. So solving for seasonality, I love that theory as well. So kind of bringing this full circle, looking at all the different parts of the business. You've seen what works, you've seen what doesn't work. You're coaching hundreds of people. What are some of the most common mistakes business owners in the trades make that our
Mhm.
listeners could take from that and
Yeah.
avoid making that mistake?
How many do you want?
Let's go top three.
Sure. Okay. One, like by a country, they're all big, but one would be priority management. So, like, does the owner follow their calendar like religiously? And most, like, that's our biggest first module we do in our coaching program. Like, we're going to spend a month, Paul, just working on your calendar. I want to know what your personal time is worth per hour. I want to see your calendar, and we're going to start block scheduling time. So today is really a day for me in the morning. It's all my meetings at Revive. So I turn up to the office manager meeting, sales manager meeting, interviews, and then out to lunch. Like I'm in my Revive block schedule time. I think a lot of owners will, Paul, the phone will ring now. They'll run out and go and do an estimate because they think that's good customer service, right? And then they'll go and pick up a check across town, and then they'll finally get their office schedule, and then they'll go out and run, do a personal errand. And you're like, end up switch tasking your whole day, that you end up actually getting nothing meaningful, no meaningful work done. So we call it in our program, one of our members coined the term CEO Fridays, our guy Trey, and he would literally go out of state, lock himself in a room for 8 hours and just build systems. He liked doing it in one day. Other members like to do a half day. So that's the first thing, is like, if you don't manage your calendar, it's going to turn your life upside down, because home services is so demanding on your time from employees to clients. If you don't come in with a playbook Monday morning, you're going to just get monsooned with the demands of everyone else. So that'd be my first one, man, would be priority management.
Love it. What's number two?
Let's do another one, man. That you're going to be big on this one, Paul, because I've been seeing your content, so this will probably echo it. But I think learning your economic business model and making sure your pricing is where it needs to be. I would say 95% of our companies we work with, we end up raising their prices in the year that they're working with us. Some are small material increase, 5%. Others, man, there's a company I worked with, we raised his prices 40% twice in 1 year. Like, just very loyal customer base, but you can't send out technicians in the window cleaning space that are working for 45 bucks an hour. You're just not going to be making money. So a lot around the economics of a business. And for example, in my cleaning business, to put numbers on this, like fully loaded, Paul, with labor, Google reviews, bonus pay, everything in our market, we're in for about $30 an hour per technician. So when they're going out to site, including non-billable time, I need them doing 120, 125 per hour for each technician. So our crews need to do $2,000 a day, give or take, for a 2-person crew, less if the day is shorter. But I know the numbers in my business, my direct labor needs to land at 30% to make this thing profitable and hit our KPIs. Most owners, I'd say, don't know their direct labor percentage and don't know what their charge rate needs to be. So I wouldn't even produce another job this month, Paul, if someone doesn't know how much money they're making. So I know you got a comment on this one, man.
Yeah, it is so true, because I think where a lot of people get hung up is like, we're not telling you to raise your prices just to raise your prices. Like, don't just pick a number out of the air and be like, I'm going to raise it by 20%. Like, once you know your model, like you said, you know exactly how much revenue per hour your technicians, and every trade's different, but when you can figure that out, you know exactly what revenue you need to do per day, per week, per month, per year to get to exactly where you want to go, to have the profitability and, more importantly, the cash flow to achieve your goals and have a sustainable business. A lot of business owners are like, well, we're just ripping people off. It's like, well, no, if you're not profitable, you're not in business. That's doing a disservice to the customer, because when they call you next year, like, hey guys, you did so well cleaning our house, like, well, we're not a business now because we didn't charge you enough. That customer will be like, dang, if I would have known that, I would have paid double, right? Like,
Yeah.
So knowing your numbers, and even going back to number one of priority management, I think Dan Martell talks about it too, of like, picking, like you said, picking the days or the blocks are so important. Like for me, Wednesday, today we're recording this on a Wednesday, that's content day. Content day is either recording podcasts, guesting on podcasts, or recording content to put out, or writing content, doing whatever. But I have all of my days blocked just like you do. And then Friday for me is the strategy kind of forward thinking day, whereas the first 4 days are different things of delivering service, client calls, sales calls, that type of stuff. So love the first two. And then let's finish it off with one more common mistake you see.
I would say this one's really relevant in the last year, Paul, and I would not have said this one 2 years ago, but I would say underestimating the heavy lift required with marketing their business. You know, through pandemic, most trades business owners were crushing it. We couldn't hire people. I swear in our coaching program is like 18 months, 2 years straight of just like teaching hiring models to get people in the door. But it shifted this year, man, with the state of the economy, the interest rates, especially when you're built up on affluent residential projects, as a lot of the businesses we work with are. And if you're newer to business, I would say too, like within your first 5 years, already you're pushing a boulder uphill. But I think in today's economy, you need to be extra savvy with what you're doing to grow your business. So I'll go a little deeper on this. Like, I think a lot of owners neglect a lot of the organic marketing strategies that they can do in and around their town to really become almost like this local celebrity. If you walk through my town, I would want to be known as Dave has Revive, or they do the house washing, the window cleaning. Like, you want to make your brand really synonymous locally. How we've done that is just really simple organic marketing, wrapping our trucks. We call it a stake sign, a small sign behind on every project. We ask for a review on every project. We email out to ask for referrals. And every job we do, Paul, we deliver 5 door hangers to the neighbors around the site, so long as it's not like working out in farm country type of thing. So those small cost-effective tactics work really good for businesses that are not wanting to throw a ton of cash into marketing. And as I'd say, we underestimate the effort required. We don't necessarily underestimate like the capital resources required, because most trades businesses are not, Paul, sitting on a couple $100,000 to market this thing. They've got like 6 grand in the bank, and they're like, I got to pay my 2 employees, and then I got maybe $1,000 for marketing. So a lot of companies miss on those organic marketing methods, and they'll go to Google PPC or Facebook too quick. I grew my business to over $600,000 before spending a dollar online, just because we did all this stuff so hardcore in the neighborhoods we worked in.
Love it. And it is like that's the low hanging fruit too, because you're already at the customer's home, or you already have their attention. Like you're just taking advantage of every touch point and turning it into marketing. And really it's just providing a great service. Hey, do you mind leaving us a review? Hey, do you know anybody else that needs this? Like you're just taking advantage of every touch point to turn them into customers for life. And then all of a sudden they're doing all the marketing for you. So that's great insight.
Yeah.
I think especially like you said, everybody was scaling so quickly the last couple of years. Now it's like, okay, the faucet's turned down a little bit. We got
Yeah.
to stretch every dollar. We got to get more out of every lead. And we got to be, really stewards of this cash, because for the last couple of years, we didn't really have to. Like there's really bad business owners being successful the last couple of years. Now the rubber's hitting the road, and it's like, all right, we really got to get this dialed in. So those are all great actionable pieces of advice. As we start to wrap this up, Dave, I like to ask everybody, because we want people to take action. You like people taking action. Out of all the
Yeah.
things we've talked about, all the things you preach, with Home Service Business Coach, what's one thing our listeners can do within the next 24 hours to move their business forward even just a little bit?
Ooh, good one. I'm gonna go with the 3-year vision, man. And this doesn't need to be a 25-page like corporate PDF document. What I would do is book in the time to sit. I like bullet points, man. Just sit down and don't ask yourself how this is going to happen. Just write out in 3 years from now. So in 2027, 2028, what does the business look like? You can jot down revenue, how much money you want to be making. And this is the one I love, Paul. What is your day to day going to be as a business owner? For me, I only wanted to work in my business a half day a week. That's how it's set up. It's been this way for 3 years. I go in on Wednesdays and I leave by lunch. And like, I've got a Slack channel when stuff happens. I can be involved, yes, but my dedicated time is Wednesday morning. And that was very intentional because I wrote it out in my vision. So I'm not saying you need this vision board with all these images and people get overwhelmed. Just like disappear for an hour and just jot down in bullet point form 3 to 5 things what you want your business to look like. And it'll be like pretty cool if you're quite a goal-oriented person, as you probably are listening to a growth podcast like this. You might have strayed from your vision and you might want to revisit it and say, let's actually get serious about building something like I really love to step into in a few years from now.
Yeah, and I love the focus on what is your personal life, like what is your actual day? Because I think we're both of the same mindset of our goal is to how do we leverage this business, this vehicle, this thing we've built to really build the life that we love. And if we want to work, 4 hours a week into this business, we can if we are intentional. We have the vision, we have the destination, and then we just work backwards, like we said at the beginning, start with the end in mind. So awesome, awesome, awesome advice, Dave. It's been so great to have you back on the show and go deep and really learn about all the things you've been doing in the last couple of years. Thanks again for coming on the show, sharing your journey, and providing all of this great advice, insight, strategies for all the blue collar business owners out there as we continue our journey to prosperity. Before we sign off, though, where can listeners go to keep in touch with you and learn more about what you got going on?
Yeah, man, we're pretty much all over homeservicebusinesscoach.com or any social channel with the same name.
Awesome. And it is like, y'all, if you just go to Google and search Home Service Business Coach, like he's got this market cornered. And I love it. Super simple name, but nobody else thought of it. And that's what he does. He does it better than anybody else. Home Service Business Coach, any platform, Google, website, all the good things. Dave, thank you again for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it.
And before you head out, if you are ready to have a business that produces consistent positive cash flow so that you can have a financially healthy business and achieve your personal goals, let's make it happen. Head on over to thebluecollaradvisors.com/call to book a free financial assessment of your business. I will dive into the financials of your business, take a look at what's going on, find any red flags as well as opportunities that you have in your business. Let's make it happen. Again, thebluecollaradvisors.com/call. Until next time, remember, what got you here won't get you there. If you're ready for different results, it's time to start doing things differently.